Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. You have joined the Progressive Parenting Network Presents, and today we are going to be talking about a very important issue, something that kind of got under my skin the other day on Facebook. I saw an ad that was sent to me by my sister, and I clicked on it and I watched it, and my initial reaction to it was, I love this. This is fantastic. Why didn't I come up with this idea myself? And then I sat on it for a little bit, and it started to eat at me, and I watched it again, and then I watched it again, and it really started to bug me. And I wanted to talk about it with some women that I admire, and that's what we're going to talk about today. And it turned out that it was a formula ad. So this is going to be a show about breastfeeding, formula, and propaganda. So I'm going to start by introducing my first guest. Austin Reese is an international board-certified lactation consultant and co-founder of Sacred Milk and Milk Stories. She's a certified Sacred Pregnancy Level 3 instructor and a trained baby-wearing consultant. Austin holds a BA in biology from Hollins University. Currently, Austin volunteers as a La Leche League leader, a baby-wearing educator, and leads Sacred Milk online courses and live retreats. Austin lives in Northern Virginia with her husband and 4 unschooled children. Awesome. I know I happen to have met Austin in person, so I'm really excited to have her on the program. And I want to introduce my other guest. I want to make sure I get everything right because this is a beautiful bio. I read it like 3 times. This is my friend Rebecca, my Facebook friend Rebecca Jackson Artis. She was born on the south side of Chicago to Philip and Antoinette Jackson. Rebecca grew up as an only child in the north suburb of Skokie, Illinois. She graduated from let's see if I can say this right, Scholastica Academy in 1995, and later from Hampton University in 1999 with a Bachelor of Arts degree in Theater, Arts, and Speech. Rebecca was a professional actress, writer, and comedian for over 10 years. After the birth of her first son, Rebecca decided to put her acting career on pause and focus on being a full-time mom. It was during this time she realized there was a huge need for breastfeeding support and education, primarily among African Americans. She received a certification as a lactation specialist, began working as breastfeeding peer counselor for the Chicago Department of Public Health. Rebecca co-founded the Monolatry Group, a lactation support company, and continued to expand her work for the Abiyamo Omo Society, an African American maternal and child health nonprofit organization, which is still active today. Rebecca co-created the Breastfeeding Peer Counselor program at the University of Illinois at Chicago Hospital in 2011. She continues to certify women in peer counseling and still works directly with women on lactation. She also co-founded an African-centered school called Watoto Wetu Academy, located on the south side of Chicago. She's a board member of Breastfeed Chicago, one of the largest breastfeeding support groups on social media, and co-host of A View from Iraq with African Moon. I also know African Moon, a web radio show on Blog Talk every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern. Today, Rebecca works as a peer support specialist and program recruiter for Voice Therapeutic Solutions, supporting prenatal and postpartum mothers who live in underserved communities. Welcome, both of you ladies. Thank you so much for being on the program.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you because this has been bugging me. Oh my gosh. And I was just telling Austin before the program started that it was especially bothering me because I just, like, as you can see right now, I've been having a hard time finding words lately. I think it might be breastfeeding related, but I wanted to blog about this. Like, the second I watched it that night, we got into this, like, all these big long feeds about it on Facebook where people had these different ideas. So I was going to show a clip from it, but I think they've gotten enough hits. It's a formula company did an ad about, like, the mommy wars, and it's all of these moms kind of going back and forth at each other, and there's some dads in the commercial as well. And at the end, one of the mom's strollers with a baby in it gets away from her and rolls down the hill, and all of these women who had been at each other's throats go after the stroller, and one of the dads grabs it and saves the baby, and they're all like, oh, thank goodness, and they all hug each other, and everything's okay because at the end of the day, we're all parents. So my initial response was, like, to that is, like, my heartstrings were like, oh, yes, we all are parents. This is fantastic. And then I watched it again, and then I watched it again, and I got really upset. So let's talk about what might be wrong with that, because a lot of people on Facebook were like, I don't understand, what's the big deal? Why would you be upset with this commercial? So can we start with you, Rebecca, about, like, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with everybody? Why can't we all just get along idea?
Right, and you know what? I totally understand those moms who do say that, because if you look at the commercial, just generally, without breaking it down, and with my background in dramatic criticism, it's hard for me to do that. But when you just look at it generally, it does. It looks amazing, and it's very, holistic, and we're all one. But what we have to understand is who funded that. Okay, if you have any background in entertainment at all, I mean, even if you've done one show, you know that the elements of lighting, music, sound, color are all emotionally manipulative. All of those things are a lot of entertainers study psychology for a reason, because a yellow light can do something to your soul. A certain color can do something to your soul. A certain type of music can alter your emotion. So we have a company who is a drug company, Abbott Laboratories, who makes Similac. And I personally know a friend who used to be their PR rep. Yeah, I know. And so, but anyway, but we have to understand there's not one, and again, we have to know this. And in talking to my friend, there is not $1 that they spend toward anything that they know that they're not going to get $1 million more back. So we have to understand when they created this ad, they have monetary intentions, and it's not to be kumbaya, it's to sell more of their products.
Austin, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this as well. So what was your initial reaction? Because I feel like I was taken in. I felt like a boob. I just felt like, oh, wow, they got me. They totally got me, because I fell into that, and I was all about it. What were your initial thoughts on that?
My initial thoughts were it was very entertaining, and it was like, oh my gosh, they really exaggerated a lot of the stereotypes of parents, and they really hit it, right on the head. And it was entertaining. And then I just started seeing, when I found out that it was from Similac, it really it made me kind of start to look, what was the intention of this? And a lot of people, I don't think, even understood that it was an advertisement. It is a commercial, because they are pushing a product. And so otherwise, people thought it was just a really good feeling video that they could enjoy. And it just really made me think we need to lift the veil of this marketing and the intentions that Abbott's Laboratory had to really attack and kind of use their pierce their talons, their marketing talons, into people's emotions. So when you release that, there's pain and damage done when you are trying to take that out to show, this was manipulating. And so really kind of breaking down the advertisement just kind of took me back from before it was just something entertaining, and then kind of looking at really what were their motives. And their motives are clearly not necessarily to make a sisterhood of motherhood, a place where people can kind of come, and as they said, where you were not judged. And that's not necessarily what they are doing. They're making a social media Facebook page so that they can, and as they said, they even wrote it down, a goal is to provide useful, interesting content about Similac. So it's not there to make a group, a circle, a sisterhood.
Yeah, they just came right out and said it. And that's the thing. When I watched it, I didn't know that it was a commercial. I thought it was like one of that wonderful video, the Boobalootion. I really appreciated that one. I thought it was something like that because it cut off before it said who made it. On mine, on the one that I watched. So it just said the Sisterhood of Motherhood, and I was like, oh, I love that sentiment. That's fantastic. And I was like, and I told my husband, we were watching it together, and he was closer to the computer, and I said, who made this? Who did this? Like, who's the group that's behind this? And so he looked it up, and the first thing that popped up was a Huffington Post article about it, and it said that it was from Abbott, that it was a Similac commercial, essentially. And I was like, oh, I was horrified. And then I was like, oh, they got me. But let's break this down for I think for the moms who are like, who still don't get it. They still think that it's a great message. What's the big freaking deal? So what's the big freaking deal, Jessica? I mean, Rebecca, what's the big deal?
Well, there's several big deals. I mean, and you know, again, coming from an entertainment background, no DP or director of photography, and that's the person who knows how to get the angles and the lighting and really get that person to move a certain way and position a certain way. No DP on any project is going to tell a mom or a dad to stand a certain way, or a woman or man to stand a certain way, and it not have a deeper intention. So, I mean, if you look, all the women that came out, they came out in threes. You know, that's very important. And a lot of people think, oh, well, that's just, you know, that's no big deal. I mean, they all came out in threes. Well, we all know the symbolism on an artistic level of the number 3, right, Gina? 3 means balance. 3 means mind, body, and soul. 3 means past, present, and future. And a brother actually brought that up to me, and he when he saw it, he brought that attention to me, and I was like, whoa, that's deep. That Similac is letting you know they've been in the past, they're now in the present, and they will be here in the future. They're letting you know in subliminal ways that, you know what, we're going to last, and we're going to beat you to it. And another thing, if you look and really listen to the words, and I'm sure you're talking about that same Huffington Post article that I read, that really I was amen in that woman the whole time. I was like, yeah, yeah, where it says, listen to the words of what the breastfeeding moms said. They were actually insulting the women. They were actually attacking the women, whereas the formula feeding moms were very defensive. Formula feeding moms were more like, well, you know, look, well, you know what, it's your fault. You're the police. And we all know right now we're in a police state, so a lot of people are having issues with the police. And so when you align yourself with the police, you're the attacker. You know, so already they're already labeling breastfeeding moms as problematic. And then let's end it with the fact that sometimes we as mothers, let's get on a feminine type of thing. We as mothers can get so distracted by catfighting that we let go of our children. You see the symbolism of that stroller? We're so busy focusing on, you know, I'm a formula feeding mom, I'm a breastfeeding mom, that we're neglecting our children. We're letting them go. We're letting them roll down the hill. You see, that's a symbol. That's what they're saying. And then when they're all running, and they're running after and they grab them, it's like, oh, well, we got to do this together. And then at the end, you see that circle. We all know circle means whole. The blue circle means whole. And then at the end, they go, you know, the Sisterhood of Motherhood, Similac. And so they're saying that Similac is the Sisterhood of Motherhood, and it's not the actual motherhood. Now, I want to say this last point, which really disturbed me, are the 3 women that came down with the formula bottles, and they're spraying them. That's ejaculation. They're saying that, you know what, I'm a woman, and I could be a man at the same time. I have masculinized femininity by being a formula mom. I can do it all. But see, you women, you don't understand what it is to be a woman, because you're barefoot and pregnant. But see, we can step into any role, because now we have blended gender roles. And see, we have to understand there's a lot of subtext.
I'm sorry, don't stop.
And I'm just saying, like, we have to understand when we watch these things, it's so, it goes more, it's deeper than, oh, I'm just watching. I mean, we're talking about film, you know, television, print ads, billboards. We're looking, it's subconsciously getting into our brains and rewiring our brains to be a corporate-friendly society. You know, to be about money and only money, and get away from the thing of mind, body, and soul, and really, who am I? And it distracts us, because we as women, we have to understand, yeah, that's it. You know, I'll say this. Overall, the ad, the simple part of it, it was good. And they've done it, and we have to tell you, Abbott Laboratories, you did a great job. You did a wonderful job. You did exactly what you wanted to do. You pulled on the heartstrings of so many women, and you made us breastfeeding moms mute ourselves for a second. Like, oh well, oh gosh, you know, well, what? Well, now I have no rebuttal. Psych. Now see, there's some breastfeeding moms that we see your game. We all know that man that walks up to a woman and plays the game. You're so beautiful. Oh, I love her. Oh, oh, you're so, oh, I love your intelligence or whatever. Woos you in the bed, screws you, and leaves you. See, that's what that is. They're screwing us. They wooed us in the bed, and now we're standing there waiting for a phone call.
Let me go to Austin. I'm like, what that was a lot. I'm like, that's a lot to take in. She got deep on us. Oh my gosh, like there's just so much to it. And what for you? I mean, my question to her was like, what's the big deal? Like, what was the big deal to you? Like, what you said, you've been wanting to write about this. Like, what was it? Like, what was that big message that you wanted to get out to moms? Like, if you had something to say to them.
I think really one of the big messages was at the end. We were talking about the circle and the sisterhood of motherhood, and it does invoke an emotion. And so if a mother is in a situation, a new mom, and she is having trouble with nursing her baby, and what she needs is support. And so where do I get a good feeling where what I do is not going to be judged, which is the word that they use, and it invokes that memory of, ooh, Similac, they're there to help me, they're there to support me. And so going to them for support is not going to be necessarily the support they're looking for, because Similac's underlying goal is to make money and to push their own product. And I really, in my work, my main message is forming that tribe of support, getting that tribe of support early. When mothers are pregnant, form this tribe of their community, people in their community that they can go to, their midwives, postpartum doulas, La Leche League, IBCLCs, and pediatric dentists. Have all of that there, so in case there is any issue after that baby is born, you have somebody to go to. And having that support is extremely important. And it irked me and made me feel irate that this company, who is there for a profit, is giving that emotion and giving that security and that circle of sisterhood, motherhood to these mothers, and that is not truly what they are giving. They are just there to push their product, and so I think that's what really rubbed me the wrong way.
I'm glad you. I agree with all of that. The biggest thing is, for me, is that the idea of a formula company offering support for moms who are breastfeeding. That's for me, like when I talk to moms who are like, I'm really, really set on having a natural childbirth. And I'm like, okay, so you're going to go see a surgeon to have a natural childbirth. Let's think about that. I know that's going to irk some people, but like, you're not going to get the information that you want to have that natural childbirth from somebody who's like, that's not their main focus. Their focus is to get the baby out safe, like that's their idea, and your natural childbirth ideas are not as important to them as what their objective is. So Similac's objective is to sell formula. So I don't know how somebody who is a breastfeeding mom thinks they're going to get support from a company that doesn't really make any money unless they're selling them formula. That was my biggest thing. That's what pissed me off the most, is like, wait, if you really look at it, y'all, like this is garbage. You're just being fooled if you think that it's not a big deal. That's just me. Rebecca?
Yes, there was a lot. We have to understand, and I want women to understand that last, you know how when you give a speech, Gina, you know how you want that last 2 minutes to sit with your audience so that when they leave the venue, they can say, wow, Gina, got me thinking about this and this and this, right? So that last kind of seal on the deal, that circle with that sisterhood of motherhood, and I agree with Austin. I mean, that was a good one. That was really good. And then they put Similac at the end. So then it leads to like I said, it mutes us. It says, well, you know, you have no argument. And we've linked ourselves with the Sisterhood of Motherhood because we know breastfeeding, as soon as you put that baby to your breast, you realize you are a part of a sisterhood. You realize the full depths, like, of every aspect of being a mother right at that point. No matter how long you breastfeed, you understand that impact. Whether you embrace it or it makes you repelled, you still understand it. And so to say that Similac is a part of that Sisterhood of Motherhood, I mean, they're gangstering their way right in that. They're just letting you know, like, we're going to be in that sisterhood. We're going to be in that natural world. Another thing we have to understand is they were very stereotypical. Even though, and again, having a background in comedy, you know, comedy is really close to tragedy. We have to understand that there's a very thin line between tragedy and comedy. And there's also, you know, with that, you have to kind of go there. You can never be safe with comedy. But I didn't really understand the dynamic that well of, like, you know, you have this, you have these fake comedic moments and then you end it with this kumbaya moment. That didn't really sit well with me. And what they did is they took these stereotypical roles of natural parenting. You know, oh, I gave birth in a pool with dolphins. Dolphins help me or something. You know, they made you natural, you know, us natural moms. Oh, you're crazy. Like, you are extreme, you know. And then they normalize those moms who really repel the AP kind of, you know, parenting and things like that. So I felt like that was also that kind of called their, you know, their motives out. And then, you know, they're shaming breastfeeding by even, like, promoting the covering of breastfeeding and you know, it just, and also they're kind of also saying with that is that fathers really have no role in breastfeeding. That if you want your father to have a role in raising your child, you have to formula feed. You know, and it just...
What about that? Because I remember them saying it's not all about breastfeeding, and then some of the dads were like, well, yeah, it is. Yeah, what about that?
No, not all about breast. They didn't say breastfeeding. They said breast.
That's right. It's not all about breast.
Exactly. And there you go. You have that sexualizing the breast thing. You're teeter-tottering on that. You know. So this ad, this ad just on all levels just was very, very damaging to the whole movement of bringing all moms together. Because we don't need Similac to tell us women to love each other. We all know that. We know that when we get up in the morning. We know that I am one with that woman right across the street. I am one with my community. I am one. I don't need a corporation telling me I need to be one with my community. That's the responsibility of my elders and my community. And the thing is, now we're in a place where some of us, and we have to admit, some of the people in our generation, we're not listening. We're not listening to the elders. We're not listening to our people in our community. And we're so busy listening to Similac and finding guidance in Similac. So we need to stop.
So where does that start, Austin? Like, where does that start for moms? So once we've understood what Similac's trying to do, we get it now. You kind of, like you said, pull the veil off of it. We know that they're just trying to push their product. How do we move on without them? Because we don't need them. So how do we do that for moms? How do we create that community for them?
Ooh, that's a fabulous question. This is something that I have seen as a need, and why, you know, I do what I do is trying to bring these mothers together, bringing in our own community, making circles and groups, and, you know, I've been working with La Leche League, which is another form of circle, also working with giving this information to local doctors and midwives and letting them know about the communities that we have. And it really, it starts prenatally, and it starts, we just need to get the word out as much as we can. If you are involved in a group, if you're involved in a mother's group, you know, really not just taking in the people who are seeking you out, but going out into the community and where there's new mothers. If you have cards for the groups and organizations that you're a part of, when you are in, the big box stores and you're in the area of the baby aisle and you see new mothers, sharing those cards, be it a baby wearing group or a mothering group or something that is a circle and a way of support and community for these new mothers, because we no longer live in tribes and we no longer live with our families, and a lot of people live away, and that is where we gained our sense of support in our own natural empowerment as women and mothers, is because we would see a situation that may occur. Say, our sister had mastitis, and you saw how our aunt and mother or grandmother treated her, so that if something came up that was an issue, there was no fear that you wouldn't be able to get through it either, because you saw other people get through it. So, I just find there's a lot of mothers nowadays who hit a wall and hit an issue in the beginning, which that is what we call the labor of motherhood, that beginning, that initiation, beginning this relationship with our babies and our milk is a time that may be their labor. It might be simple, it might be difficult, but in those difficult times and in those good times, we need to have support, and having a circle and people where they can share their fears and celebrate their joys, and be able to have both sides and share their experiences. And it's a need, it's not a want. I think clearly Similac and Abbott's Laboratories was able to see that there is a need, and they tried to kind of step in to fit that and fill that need, even though that's not necessarily what they were doing.
Yeah, for sure. And Rebecca, I'm sure I think you'll agree that when we don't do the job for us, that the government or the bigger authority will do it for us. And
yes.
So, Austin, I really agree with her. She's saying, like, we haven't done a good job of it, so they see that need, and they're like, we're going to fill that need and make money while we're doing it.
Yes, a great elder once told me, if you don't control yourself, somebody else will control you. So we have to understand that we have to go into the community of mothers, and but see, a lot of us are scared. A lot of us are walking in and treading on, I don't want to be offensive, and I don't, as well as we're not advocating for the proper funding in our industry. So, because there are a lot of things we can't do. There are a lot of advertisements that we should be able, and good propaganda we could put out there, but we have not advocated for proper funding in our industry. And so a lot of times we either have to get into our own pockets or just do it out of like prayer and trust. But yeah.
Right, and that's the issue, isn't it, though, that because who makes money if every mom breastfeeds? Who's going to make? And nobody profits from it. Nobody profits from breastfeeding, so who the heck's going to lobby for it? There's no money in it.
But then we have other industries in the world who, when you really look at it, they don't really profit. I mean, look at education. I mean, if you really, my husband's in education. When did education become profitable? Like, where do all these like corporations now want to start charter schools? We have to ask these questions. Like, really, what are they getting out of being in education? But somehow, some way, somebody advocated for education, more funding, and make it more of a profitable industry. And I'm not saying that charter schools are great. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is there was somebody advocating for the academic industry. They stood up and they demanded money. And that's why I feel like we as women in this industry, in the birthing world, we need to start standing up and saying, no, not necessarily we want to profit off of this, but we want some base funding. Because as we all know, a lot of hospitals will say, oh, well, we don't really make any money off of anything. We're barely paying our bills, from people not paying their medical bills or whatever. But then you have a cardiologist, and how many people really have heart problems? But you have a cardiologist making $350,000 or $400,000 a year. How are they able to pay him every week or every 2 weeks? So who's funding that if you're not getting the bills paid? Who's funding for these massive oncology equipment. That's millions of dollars. Who's funding that if you're not really making a profit off of anything? So that's where we have to say, we have to start going, well, somebody is investing in this, and there's some benefit, if it's indirect or not or direct. We need to start going in someplace, and we need to start knocking on doors, and we need to start saying, I want the money.
Mamas need to, we really need to, parents, we really need to be better critical thinkers, I think. I just saw a lot of people saying, I don't get it, what's the big deal? It's just a commercial. And it's not just a commercial. It really isn't. I'm really glad that there are people in our communities like you and Austin trying to make a difference, trying to create that community. And I'm really happy to have had the opportunity to talk about this and really critically think about this. I appreciate both of your insights into this, and I hope that it'll help some moms maybe rethink how we look at corporations and what they're trying to sell us. How can people find you online, Rebecca? How can people listen to your radio program?
Moon and I, every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're on blogtalkradio.com/viewfromarac. And then I can be reached, you can email me, RebeccaJacksonArtist@gmail.com. I am on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, and you can look me up that way. And then also Breastfeed Chicago is on Facebook. I think we're up to 12,000 members at this point.
Fantastic.
I know, isn't it awesome? And every year we give our annual breastfeeding World Breastfeeding Week event, which will of course be in August. It's huge, and so check us out on Facebook.
Awesome. I hope people do. And Austin, how can people find you?
You can find us at sacred-milk.com or Sacred Milk on Facebook, or feel free to email us at sacredmilk@live.com.
Awesome. Thank you, ladies, so much for joining us today, and thank you, everybody, for joining us. And be sure to find us at Progressive Parenting Network on Facebook, and let us know what shows you'd like us to cover or what topics you'd like us to cover in future shows. And you can find me at progressiveparentingnetwork.com. You can also find me at GinaKirby.com, GENA Kirby.com, or MS Gina Kirby on Facebook. All right, everyone, until next time, take care of yourselves and take care of each other.